All right, let's get right into it. We're going to tackle one of the biggest questions people have about testosterone replacement therapy, or TRT. Can it actually help you lose fat? You see this question everywhere. We're going to cut right through all the noise and look at what the science really says.
So, this is it. This is the question that probably brought you here. Can TRT help you lose fat? You've probably seen all this stuff online. Some guys swear it just melts fat right off. Others say it does absolutely nothing. Well, the real answer is a little more complicated, but honestly, way more interesting. And by the time we're done here, you're going to have a super clear, evidence-based answer.
Okay, so the very first thing we need to do is kind of shift how we're thinking about this. The goal here isn't just about watching the number on the scale go down. It's about changing what that number is actually made of. And that's the big idea we're going to unpack right now.
Let's just get this out on the table right away, loud and clear. TRT is not some magic weight loss drug. It's not a shot that just melts fat while you sit on the couch. It doesn't override the basic rules of nutrition and exercise. What it does do is create an environment in your body that's way more efficient at losing fat, while, and this is the key part, while preserving your muscle when you're doing all the right things.
And that brings us to this key term, body recomposition. It's exactly what it sounds like. You're changing the composition of your body. Think of it like this. It's less about just losing weight and more about swapping out the bad stuff for the good stuff. You're losing fat mass while holding onto or even gaining lean muscle mass. This is exactly what TRT is so good at helping you do.
And this chart really nails the difference. So look at traditional dieting on the left. You cut calories, and yeah, you lose weight. But your body often freaks out and gets rid of both fat and precious muscle. And losing that muscle slows down your metabolism, which makes it so easy to gain the weight back. But now look at the right side. With TRT in the picture, the studies show something totally different happens. Your body holds onto that muscle for dear life. So the weight that you do lose is pretty much all fat. That means your metabolism stays revved up and you might see your waistline getting smaller even if the number on the scale hasn't moved an inch.
Okay, so that's the theory, right? Sounds good in principle. But what does the actual science, the hard evidence, have to say? Let's take a look at some real data from some real studies and see how this actually plays out.
Man, this chart illustrates the point perfectly. This is from a case report just from 2024. Now look at these numbers. In the first phase, this guy's lean body mass went up by 6%, while his body fat dropped by almost 9%. But here's the kicker, the part that blows people's minds. His total body weight actually increased. He got heavier, but he also got way leaner. He was literally swapping fat for denser muscle. That right there is body recomposition in action.
And that wasn't just a one-time thing. This quote here is from a randomized controlled trial. That's the gold standard of medical research. They had two groups of guys on a diet. The group that got the placebo, they lost both fat and muscle, just like you'd expect. But the guys who got testosterone, the weight they lost was almost all fat. So what this really tells us is that testosterone acts like a bodyguard for your muscles when you're in a calorie deficit.
And let's put a hard number on that. So in that same study, after 56 weeks, the men on testosterone held on to 3.4 kilograms. That's about 7.5 pounds, more lean muscle than the placebo group. That is a huge deal. That's a significant amount of muscle to hang on to, and that has massive implications for your metabolism, your strength, and your health in the long run. So we know what TRT can do. We've seen the evidence for body recomposition. But when can you actually, realistically expect to see these changes? Because it's definitely not an overnight thing. Let's walk through a practical timeline so you can set some real-world expectations.
I think this timeline is super helpful. In that first month, honestly, the biggest changes are usually mental. You feel more motivated, you've got more energy, you're just more consistent with your workouts. Then, as you get into that second and third month, you start feeling stronger, you recover faster. This is when you might notice your clothes fitting a little differently, even if the scale is being stubborn. But the visible recomposition, where you really start to look leaner in the mirror, that usually starts to become noticeable after the 3-month mark. And really, that 6 to 12-month window is the sweet spot for major changes, but only if you've been sticking with the right lifestyle habits.
And that brings us to our last section, which is maybe the most important piece of this whole puzzle. TRT does not work in a vacuum. It's not a solo act. Think of it as a powerful partner, but it needs something to partner with. It works best when it's there to support the fundamentals of good health.
This right here, this is the formula. TRT is going to give you the energy and recovery to do the work, but it can't do the work for you. You have to give your body a reason to keep its muscle, and that means lifting weights. You've got to give it the building blocks to repair that muscle, and that means plenty of protein. You still need to be in a calorie deficit to actually burn fat, and you absolutely cannot skip out on sleep. That's when all the recovery and hormonal magic happens. You put all 4 of these things together with TRT, and that's when you create the perfect storm for body recomposition.
So let's wrap it up with this question. If your goal is to look better and be healthier, what should you be paying attention to? The number on the scale or the measurement of your waistline? After everything we've just talked about, it's pretty clear that the scale tells you, at best, half the story. It can't tell the difference between a pound of fat and a pound of muscle. The real progress, the stuff that actually changes how you look and feel, is measured by your waistline, your strength in the gym, and your energy every day. That is the power of body recomposition, and that is the true potential of TRT when you use it the right way.